Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We are joining our crew cabin station thing, the Mars EV-1, as it is about to break into Mars SOI. But first we have a little correction burn to make, and I've gone ahead and plotted this out. And this is to correct its inclination from way up here to way down here, and put it to within just a couple of degrees inclination of the life support tank, LS Slug 1.1. It's sitting out here already, placed very nicely in orbit and very much out of fuel. So we're probably going to be doing much of this on the back of the station itself, which was not exactly my plan, but no plan survives battle for very long. So I've got this node plotted. It's in about 12 minutes. We're going to go ahead and attempt it a little bit early, since we've got our RCS thrusters on. I will just go ahead and switch back to this momentarily to just make sure we can ullage in our engine. There we are. And light it up, and then switch back to map view so that I can monitor exactly what's happening. Our TWR is pretty good considering the size of this craft, and doesn't take us very long to exert this much change in our velocity, and normally this would be a much smaller correction, but I did not go back and check on this thing like I said many times I was going to do, and this was the result, is needing to spend a good chunk of our available fuel on this burn. I have moved fuel from the reserve tank attached to the heat shield into the main tank so that we can use it. I will be putting what's left back shortly. Alright, and now the fun part, engines that don't throttle can't be very precise, and stop. Oh wow, 0.8 meters per second. Let's get rid of this node so we can see what our actual everything is. Alright, periapsis, can't read that, Mars is in the way, 25 kilometers, bit low. I think I'll adjust that when we're in the SOI and I can be a little more precise. 6.3 degrees, so we're actually better than what the node I plotted was. That's good to know. Alright, so we'll just need to raise our periapsis by just a little bit as we make transfer into SOI. I'm pretty sure that coming in that low is going to cause some pretty serious problems. 0.6 meters per second gets us up to 95, and that is way too high. We want to be probably in the 30 to 40 kilometer range. Okay, well, alright, we're just going to do this later after RCS has stopped mucking around. And yeah, I guess I'll just leave the fuel there. Good, that one's empty. We still have our reserve tanks inside the cargo bay that are locked. So we'll be leaving those alone, hopefully. I mean, no, not hopefully, definitely. We will definitely be leaving those alone. So I'm going to take a quick save because I would hate if the game crashed and I had to do all of this node tinkering again. And let's go ahead and warp to our SOI change. That was fast. Yeah, it was only like 3 hours, and I guess after 20 minutes of me tugging nodes around precariously. Yes, delete on close. Alright. And there is our SOI change. Alright, so this will happen in about 1 day, 19 hours. Let me just double check Kerbal alarm clock. We've got nothing else coming up until Proby McProbeface makes his inclination change in 5 days. So we've got some time to put this all together, and that makes me very happy. So we'll just go ahead and plot this out now. Actually, I just need to turn to face in that general direction. Yeah, that's the one I thought it was. But we basically need to make sure our periapsis gets to something a little more acceptable. I'll just be monitoring that number down here. Don't actually need you, node. You're kind of in my way. Alright, what do we say about 38? Stop messing with things, RCS. You're really friggin' killing me here. Yeah, that wander is going to be the death of me. So, okay, good. That tank is empty. What we're going to do to shore this up is just lock that tank. There. Now the RCS can't fire. Hallelujah. Alright, and we have all of our comms fired up. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and deactivate one set of them now so that we can boot them up on the other side of the planet after our hopeful aero-capture. And we'll get a bit closer, and then I'll write the shutdown and reboot sequence for everything. Yeah, what we do need to do, however, is transfer fuel as far forward as we can manage, because we need to get our center of mass as close to the heat shield as we can. It'll provide stability during capture. Would you look at that? That was quite the improvement. I guess I'm happy with that. I'm gonna have to move some into this tank. Alright, you know what? Let's just go ahead and open these doors. That'll take 5 minutes. Time warp. Coming out of time warp. Nothing happening. Oh, that was probably the shutdown of our antenna. Okay, good. We do have that command. Sometimes these things just don't want to work for us. Alright, so I should probably open up all 4 of these just to make sure things stay balanced. Here we go. Here we go. Alright, and we will transfer into this. Oh no, no, I do not want to turn off the RCS. Locked. What are you doing? Who told you to move? Great. Now we're down to 21. So let's just go ahead and open this up again because you're insane, space station. Thank you for screwing this all up for me. Locked. Stop it. Stop it now. Man, that's just not a lot of fuel to warrant keeping it in there. So let's dump the rest into this ballast tank. We do still have a little bit left. And I think for simplicity's sake, no, I want to leave it there because I want the mass as far forward as possible. So I am not, in fact, going to transfer it all into the main tank. One more thing I have to lock. Come on. Frame rate. Close. And yeah, then we'll toggle our RCS on and then off. Alright, and how much of a change do we need to get the orbit we would like? Probably entirely too much. Yeah, I'm not done with this node yet. Thank you for trying. And you know what? We want to leave a good bit of distance because that is our descending node. And the further out we can keep that, the let's do that. That puts almost an encounter after an inclination change. But the likelihood of us being able to keep that is slim to none. I really should have installed the trajectories mod. It's been suggested. I keep meaning to do it, and I just keep not doing it. So look at me go. Okay, that is in 1 day, 19 hours. So I'm just going to time warp. Or rather, I'm going to bounce in and out of time warp while Flight Computer decides what the hell it wants to do with stuff. And I hope that open command is actually a close command. Thank goodness. Alright, let's get closer and we'll write our... actually, you know what? I'm going to have to turn off one of these panels manually right now. Retract. because we're going to want one of them open the whole time. And there we go. What's our power consumption? No, we're still good. Excellent. We do have several RTGs on board also, although I think they are insufficient to power the craft in its entirety, but it should mitigate the draw during nighttime, which is something it has not experienced in like almost 200 days. Alright, 1 day 16 hours. We're just going to go ahead and get in much closer. We'll slow that down a bit. We're 6 hours out. Okay, that is a good enough time to write our 5 hours 43 minutes. So we'll go ahead and set this for 6 hours 5 minutes. Yeah, that should be well more than enough for us to clear the atmosphere, right? In 6 hours 5 minutes, I would like you to extend this panel and activate this antenna, and also activate this antenna. Now, the shutdown sequence for 5 hours, we're going to be at the node in 43 minutes. We should probably do this in like 5 hours, we'll say 20, Mike. I'd like you to retract these panels, deactivate this antenna. Did that command go through? I didn't see the click. Oh yeah, it would be up here. Okay, good. Deactivate, there it is. Okay, quick save. Map check. Still looking pretty good. Alright, we just need to bleed off about 2 kilometers per second. And we will turn to face prograde much later. Because I don't want to throw off that pre-programmed periapsis very much. 3 hours. We'll just bounce this time warp back a little bit because I have not gotten a good picture yet. There it is. That is nearly fantastic. Alright. I very frequently forget to get a thumbnail. That's why this happens sometimes. Alright, 1 hour. It should kick us out of time warp with plenty of time for me to make adjustments before we hit the atmosphere. Oh man, I hope so. And that should be plenty of thruster fuel. I really hope. Alright. There is our shutdown sequence. Let's go ahead and open up this and get ourselves faced to prograde, which is down here somewhere. All right. And we're only going almost 5 kilometers a second, which is fairly slow. Although I think our life support slug came in just about as slowly. So, alright. Fingers crossed, everyone. Here we go. Dunk. Atmo. Phase to prograde, and God help you if you miss. Now, I would really prefer not to use some of this Aero-Capture to change planes, but if I did, I wanted to deflect to the south. Alright, there's our atmosphere sudden restructuring at 100 kilometers. Oh boy. This is a heavy, heavy thing, moving relatively quickly through a rarefied atmosphere. No certainty of its survival. So I'm going to concentrate really hard on making sure this thing doesn't burn up and explode. So I hope you don't mind if I just kind of speed through this. Okay, well, it doesn't really seem to matter how many times I do these aero-captures here at Mars. It's always hair-raising at the very least, but I do have to say this one went pretty well. There was a lot of me trying to offset my angle into the flow a little bit to try to push myself a little lower in the atmosphere, just get that little bit of extra edge. But that thruster there on the bottom kept wanting to overheat, so it was kind of a delicate ballet, if you will. But at the end of it, even though we are already on our way up, we did in fact get to see capture here eventually. Capture. Oh, thank goodness. I was quite worried about that, actually. But now we're just going to ride it out and see how low we're going to get. Lower not necessarily being better in this particular instance, because we have a plane change to make. And a lot of other maneuvering to do also. But I think we can make a couple more high altitude passes just to slow ourselves down a bit and save the fuel. Goodness knows we need to save the fuel, because these thrusters are burning through it like absolutely crazy. Well, let's see if we can manage that without too much tumbling. I think aero forces should still be keeping us relatively pointed in the correct direction. But I think we're safe. We're only 500 meters per second off our goal, which was pretty wide, but you know, if we can make a plane change out here, it's going to be way more efficient than if we made it way down here. And then we can just keep making passes, and keep making passes, and keep making passes to slow ourselves down. And I'm 100% okay with this. Pretty sure I did it all wrong. With that life support slug, I should have saved the fuel and just kept whipping through the atmosphere. But I think what we'll do is we'll transfer the fuel out of the ballast tank here on the heat shield, ditch the heat shield, and just make very high altitude passes to slow ourselves down, where our speed won't be that great and hopefully won't be enough to shred things. But if we just lose a couple kilometers at altitude in every pass, I'm 100% okay with that. We literally have years before the crew arrives to make this right, and so there's no harm in letting it just take as long as we have. So what's our power consumption look like? Yeah, we do have a draw. That is to be expected, and absolutely nothing wrong with that. We've got gobs and gobs of battery power to work with. So, 17 minutes till activation, no big deal. We're about to clear the atmosphere. Alright, there's our boot. Fantastic. Alright, let's go ahead and get the fuel out of this tank and into any other tank at all. quite a shift in mass there. No big deal. And we will greatly improve our delta V by ditching this thing. What's that tank? Oh yeah, food, water, oxygen. It's all food, water, oxygen. Decision. Decouple. That will take 5 minutes. And it's away. So, what are our 206 meters per second? And I don't know what the thrusters are trying to point at. They have no business doing any of that. So, just, yeah, do the spin thing. Alright, let's add a maneuver here, and we can turn that off for now. Correct our relative inclination to target. Nope, other way. My bad. Looks about right. .03. No way that we can make any of these weird numbers. No, because you're not gonna. Yeah, that's fine. Very nice. So we'll just do this the Mech-Jevy way and bring up our rendezvous planner. It's telling me 25 meters per second in 1 day, 2 hours. We've got the time. Let's go ahead and warp to node. Whoa. Everything moving so fast really freaked me out there for a second. And we'll just use the node as a guide, but I will probably be doing this manually, just paying attention to the relative inclination here on the Mech-Jev screen. What's our power consumption looking like? Oh, we are still losing power. That's, are we just not angled correctly, or... because one panel was certainly enough before. I guess we'll find out in about 8 hours. Yeah. We've got the battery life. We'll be fine. Everything's fine. This is fine. And what episode would be complete, really, without a long, I'm very nervous about my time warping kind of clip. But I did also turn on the RCS thrusters just enough. Got ourselves with that panel pointing into the sun, and got to see a positive charge rate. There was the correction burn to kind of bring down our relative inclination a little bit. And then did the rest of it on the back of the RCS thrusters, when completely deciding to ignore the node and try to do it manually with fairly decent results, I have to say so myself. Alright, .02. And we are charging our batteries off one panel. That is fantastic. I guess I would also like to get myself from not falling. Oh, our periapsis is up to 78 kilometers. That's about right. I think that's exactly where I want it for Aero-Capture. I hope. I really hope. So, yeah, I think we'll make a pass and see how well this works. Take a quick save, because I really just don't want this to fail. That's the gist of it. I really just don't want this to fail. Alright. And here we go. So, I don't think I actually need to do a shutdown sequence. But really, now that we're in range of all of our local comms that will provide relay sats for us, I could probably do it all manually. But I don't think being at such a high altitude with such a rarefied atmosphere is going to warrant even pulling in the solar panels. I could be wrong. But we can operate this thing on one. No. You know what? We need that surplus. But we also need to charge our batteries. Like a lot. So we've got 1 day. How long? Proby McProbeface has 2 days, so we can make this one pass, and that'll probably be all we can get done today, because we've got that one, and then he arrives, and then like a week later this one arrives. These are the 2 liquid fuel slugs, and boy do we really need those. Wow, we did lose way more than half our battery by being off angle for so long, but we're doing much better now. Even with one panel, we're charging up pretty readily. We've got a whole day. Let's go ahead and extend the other panel. And you know what? We've got consistent comms, so I can just pull it back in manually. Why am I being such a pansy about this? That should almost double our charge rate. Yeah, look at that. Look at that number just skyrocket. That's all surplus, baby. Wow. 2.15 kilowatts. That's what I'm talking about. Alright, let's bring that up just so I can see. So those batteries are getting full and we're getting close to the planet. But we still have 6 hours to go. Alright, we're going to retract these 2. And we're going to pull in our long-range comm. We're going to leave the short range out as an experiment. If we lose that, then we know that we still need to retract things. But I think the likelihood of us overheating at such a high altitude and such a rare atmosphere is probably not really a thing. And there's our time warp throttle back. There's our panel retraction and lock. And there's our comm shutdown. Okay, fingers crossed, we're going in. Sideways. Yeah, all RCS systems are off, all fuel tanks are locked, so we're basically just dummy floating this thing through the atmosphere to see what happens. I know, this is the greatest time to perform experiments on whether or not things will explode on a mission critical station that was very expensive and very difficult to get here. But you know, if it tumbles around a bit and creates more drag even at such a high altitude, I think we'll be okay with that. So far so good. I'm perfectly okay with it just tumbling around. I would like to do a very much no fuel orbit correction if I can. And we're on our way back up. So we've already made it through the roughest part of this. See how much our orbit is falling. Meh. I forgot what it was originally. I want to say 60 some odd million. And good, it's not affecting our relative inclination. I was a little worried about that. Not very, though. Alright, we're clear. We will go ahead and extend these panels again. And hopefully get that battery charged all the way back up. Of course, it'll be 5 minutes before they get the command to do so. How are we as far as sun facing? I think it'll be good enough. As long as we can see a net positive charge. At least I know we're getting ready to disappear behind the nighttime side of Mars. Is that a better shot than before? I mean, yeah, kinda. Awesome. Well, so far so good. We're on a good inclination. We're just gonna let this thing make several, probably dozen passes to slow its orbit down, and then, I mean, by that time we'll have many other things coming into orbit, which will certainly complicate things. But I think it's going to ignore atmospheric drag when it's not the active vessel. We hope, because I think I will certainly have to be aero-capturing some other things while this is still doing all of its deorbity, sunshiny nonsense and stuff. So there's that. But I've kept you here far too long already. That's going to do it for this episode, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out. I do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.